All right, y'all, this is just a quick morning video. I am getting ready to go to the market, but I just had to take a quick video. The lighting is beautiful. I got a little, I can't remember the name of that one, but it's in the zinnia family. Cherry bicolor zinnia. Got a bloom on it. It's so pretty. And a little bit of flowers down here. These are supposed to attract predator wasps or something that eat the bad bugs on your plants. I just installed this hoop house, or this hoop for stuff to grow on. This is not the garden that I showed often last year. This is the other side of the yard that I'm now converting into more of a permaculture garden as well, more of a food forest. So I planted a peach. Now I am down here in the far, far south Mississippi, but this winter and last winter got really cold, and so I got a peach, an apple, and a pear that are supposed to be up to zone 9, which is what we are, in the hopes that they would produce on the years that it was too cold for citrus. So this really tall plant that's behind here, that's amaranth, and so I'm going to try some grains this year for the times we live in. Down here I've got onions up front, and then tomatoes. There's also beans that are flanking it on both sides. A beautiful volunteer sunflower. Look at that big thing. And that purple one is more amaranth. I got 4 or 5 different kinds of amaranth. Over here on the underside of the hoop, I'm in it now, got cucumbers and beans together tightly. You know, I like to plant tightly. Some kind of flower here, Ostus festimum. More tomatoes, more beans. Behind the hoop house here, that tree there is a persimmon that's just doing amazing. It grew like 5 feet last year, so it's really doing well. More amaranth behind on the other side there. We'll see that on the other side. This is a patch that's left over from winter. It's full of kale, onions, mustards. Those red ones there, that's a red mustard. Swinging back around, back there I've got some sugar cane in that spot there, but it's tiny yet, and I got to clean it up a little bit. That is our citrus tree. It is, I got 2 of them back here. These are Washington navel oranges. They are just jam-packed. I did another hoop this year going into the greenhouse, like an entryway into the greenhouse. This is a Anise hyssop, and it's got a big, pretty purple flower that grows. I'll get to that bed in a minute. So this is the other side of the persimmon, and then down in the back here, this will get quite a bit of shade protection, and the shade protection is key here in Mississippi. I've got watermelon and eggplant, some more amaranth, a couple of flowers, and then along the fence row right here, I've got a yard-long bean, which is a really good southern bean. It can take a lot of heat. And so I'm gonna try to just create living fence rows this year. So everything's gonna have something climbing on it. Down here we've got the cash flow zucchini, which is doing really well. A little onion patch with some cilantro back there. You know, I like to plant tightly. Some marigolds in there. There's a yellow squash that's not doing great in the inside, but you can see all the zucchinis in here. Cash flow zucchini creates 3 to 4 zucchinis at a time and just keeps producing. It's a really great cultivar. Turning back around here, this is the other hoop that I created going into like an entryway into the greenhouse. You can see there's some mess laying around. That's just the nature of the garden. These are sweet potatoes in buckets. They are purple sweet potatoes, which I have not, I've not seen before. So I'm curious to see. I mean, I not until this year. A friend gave me some, so I'm really anxious to see that. But last year I had sweet potatoes here, and check out what happened. So this bed right here, I cleaned it all up and got all the junk out. And then you come down here and check this out. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Down there is 5 volunteer sweet potatoes so far. And I think that there will wind up being more because the sweet potatoes last year vined into this bed. And so they kind of came off and went into there, and now they're popping up all over. I suspected sweet potatoes were perennial here, but I am really excited to see just how well they're doing. The other garden on the other side is doing the same thing. I've got 2 or 3 places where I've got sweet potatoes coming up. And then I've got just some flowers planted on the inside here, and then I did plant green beans, pole beans in here. So my hope is that they will climb on this whole trellis and do their thing. A different variety of zucchini over here. Great looking plants, different production. So this is just a general zucchini. They don't produce as much as the cash flow zucchini. This is a little bit of leftover mustards and kale from the winter season. That's sort of, we're in a transition period now. I got a little bit of beets and kale and some herbs back there. And then behind the trellis on the side, I've got a row of beans as well. So that's just whatever, all kinds of stuff in there. And then this last year, this winter I developed a strawberry patch. So I took all of the strawberries that I had in pots and then I had tucked away in little corners and I put them all in one place. So we've got a strawberry patch here, and then in the backyard behind the pool, we're gonna put another big strawberry patch, similar to this one in cinder blocks, back there as well. So, and then probably a couple satsumas next to that. I've been trying to let junk collect back there, like logs and wood and stuff, in the hopes that it would rot down and I would have a good growing spot for trees. Then over here, a lot of volunteer stuff happened over here. So this is my girls, the chicken coop. I got squashes that volunteered. There's 2 here and then 1 on the back side that are doing really well. And so that'll be really interesting to see. This was a tomato that kind of pooped out in my pot, so I threw it back here. I believe it's a black cherry. This year I took my bergamot, which is either the same plant or very closely related to bee balm. And it has not been doing great the last few years. That's what this patch here is. And I took the chicken deep litter method that's in there and I sort of tucked it in around the bottom of the bergamot. And so this year it is absolutely taken off. And it's just a flowering herb. It is a plant you can use as tea, make like a mint tea out of it. It's delicious, but that's not, I probably just leave it for the bees. It's a really great bee feed. That little red one back there is a salvia. I've got some collards there. These are late collards that I still had that really, it's not an ideal season for collards, but they're really shaded here and they're right next to the chicken coop. So I figured as they grow, the chickens can munch on them, and I don't care if the rats eat them, whatever, they'll just kind of be filled in here. This is the back side of that bed that's behind the hoop. And then we have another Washington navel orange. Back there is what I had quail in, but I am very seriously thinking about rabbits. So that may be rabbits back there soon. And here's my girls. Hi, girls. And then back here, there's a couple of beds that I've been where I've been throwing chicken litter. And so these have been sitting for a year, and I've got beets and kale in there, some herbs, some mint and cilantro. And then I did more collards on this side. Now this only gets late afternoon sun for about 2 hours. But the collards are doing great with that because they really can't handle the weather already in April in Mississippi. It's too hot for them. Back here, I've got a little roll, and I'm hoping to develop this back here. This is a very shady corner. I'm hoping to develop this. I've got wild elephant ears. They grow wild here, and wild elderberry. So this is, I'm kind of going to try to develop this into a beautiful shade garden. There might just be a lot of pretty things back here because there's a lot of beautiful things that I really enjoy. And then I can just sit back here in the shade and watch my girls talking to me. Look at my pretty girls. Hey, girls. And then back in the back of the chicken coop, I did the same thing. I took some spinach, which is too late for, and some more collards, which is too late for, and some decorative kales that I still just had laying around from the season. And I threw them in the back, and the girls have been munching on them. They really enjoying them. You can see here where they've been eating the leaves, which is exactly what I wanted. I just wanted them really close. And this little spot here also gets about 2.5 hours of morning sun. So it's been doing really well. I've only had this stuff planted here for about a week, so it's doing good. And I don't know how long it'll last, but if it gets bug eaten, fine. If the chickens get a few of the bugs, fine. Everybody wins. Now this little bed here is something I've been developing for about a year. This has got a fig. The main thing here is the fig, but you can barely see it anymore through the mint and the onions and the dills and the yarrow. I mean, it's just fennel. We got all kinds of crazy in here. And then the back are some perennial onions. So I've got those back there. Some kale, some flowers. And there's a bunch of fire ants in there too. I've already been killing them. So back here, I've got a few more. It's very difficult to see, but there's an elderberry there. And then there's an elderberry down here and an elderberry there. I went to the school. There's this elderberry that I have seen blooming and fruiting at the kids' elementary school. And I went and I got some cuttings and I watered them, like put them in water, and they shot roots out. And then I put them in dirt with the root, like enhancer is a chemical powder thing you could put on to make the roots grow. And then they started thriving even more, and I came back here and put them in. They tolerate a lot of shade and they like wet, kind of shady areas. So I have them back here. This gets 2-3 hours, 4 hours of sun in the morning, but then it gets shaded in the afternoon, which is exactly perfect for elderberry. This is also where I dump a lot of my organic material from my different garden jobs that I do. And last year I had one of my garden jobs, a lot of those decorative sweet potatoes. And so there's a whole bunch of decorative sweet potatoes. There was tubers in this little pile right here. And so there's a whole bunch coming up, the dark purple and that lime green sweet potato on the vine. So that's really cool. And then this is some kind of mint. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it came from, but I probably either bought it or tried to start it somewhere. It's the third different kind of mint that I have, so I'm excited to have another one. And I just threw some beets in here too, and this is a chard from the winter. So there's a lot of different things. And this one, and that is pretty much, was a little potting bench that I put together. I'll probably come back here again sometime. There's my chickens, greenhouse on the hoop, the strawberry bed, the other hoop, and that's our fire pit. That's a cloth I tried to do winter protection. We had a late freeze. Anyway, I'll show you the other side of the garden another day, but thought I would show you this one. And we didn't spend any time in here last year. It kind of got overgrown and crazy because I spent so much time developing the other one. So this year I'm really focusing on this garden in here this year. So, all right, cheers everyone. Happy gardening.